I have two readings today. Has to do with kindness and shining your light. This first poem is by Becky Hemsley. A girl I knew once told me of the day she found a well full up with stars that had been shooting till they fell. She'd stumbled quite upon it when she'd seen the faintest glow of long forgotten wishes made so many years ago. As she looked in awe at all the stars that had crash landed, they seemed their seed of an idea inside her head was firmly planted. She waited till the twilight when the earth slept without sound. Then with a net she gathered moonbeams as they reached the ground. She tied them all together like a ribbon made of pearl, which she pinned to the midnight sky above the sleeping world. And then against the dark, along the ribbon she had strung, those once abandoned wishing stars were delicately hung. So every star suspended from the bunting she had made held whispers of the almost dreams that people had let fade. The echoes of what could have been, the well of deep regret, the fading glow of something that has not been realized yet. And now the stars she hung that night keep shining way up there, the hopes from dying embers reignited by her care. But that's not all you see, because it wasn't just the stars, the dreams, and all the wishes that were rescued from the dark. For the girl had found her purpose, and she shone brightest of all, as she proved that we bring light by lifting others when they fall. The second one is I found from Tips That Change Your Life on Facebook. It's called The Light We Share. There's a quiet radiance inside you, a flame that was never meant to be hidden. When you let it shine, it doesn't just light your own steps, it reaches into the lives of those who've forgotten their own glow. Sometimes it takes only a gentle spark, a kind word, a steady presence to remind another soul of their strength. Light is not diminished when shared, it multiplies, weaving a path of warmth through even the darkest night. And as we walk together, each carrying our own small fire, the shadows lose their power and the way forward becomes clear. That's it for today.
But you made people have a lot of different kind of memories. You might remember yourself going back to school around this time of year when you were in whatever grade that was. And I heard somebody say the other day, which I thought was really great, that they were going into their 60th year of school. Not in terms of actually going to a school, but in terms of life. And I thought that was pretty interesting to think about it in along those ways. But our memories do bring us into this time of year, perhaps your last vacation time, if you were with family or on your own during the summer, the start of school shopping, all of those kind of things, the start of putting out pumpkins and all the kind of autumn things that start to show up. I was in CVS and they had Halloween up and the beginnings of November, Thanksgiving-ish. So I'm already thinking, oh my gosh, I've got to get my tree. So, we get into these modes, right? By seeing some of these things. But memories also of this weekend, it's become a vacation weekend. It's again, the last unofficial weekend of summer, as many people think of it as. But we actually have to remember why we have this weekend. Just like we have Memorial Day weekend or Veterans Day weekend, whatever it happens to be, we've created these holidays around these really important dates or these really important times that sometimes we remember more about the Jersey Shore than we remember about why we have Labor Day weekend. And for most of us, if we do remember what we were taught way back when, was that we have to remember working conditions in this country and around the world for centuries for the worker were not that good. They were children in the labor force. There were people working 12, 14, 15 hours a day, 7 days a week, not getting enough food, not getting paid for the time that they were spending laboring away. And people in the late 1800s started to take notice of this. They started to look and say, people are putting in time, energy, and effort to build these empires, to build these railways, to build these technological new things that were coming out. And many were going home to a place that had no heat or no food, or where 10 people were crammed into a single room. So activists started to say things need to change. People started to stand up and say things need to change. And what happened is the people that were owning companies or owning empires had to take a look at this and say, we're changing this. Forced into changing the rules, where children couldn't work if they were 8 and 9 and 10 years old. They were working maybe when they were 12 or 13, which is different than today, but they didn't have to work. People had time off. They may have had Sunday off to go to church, but they had time off. They had wages starting to make more sense for what many people were doing. But Labor Day is for the workers. Labor Day is to acknowledge the fact that people work very hard in their life and deserve something in return for that work. And when you look at the word labor itself, if you look that up in the dictionary or on Google, I say dictionary to my grandkids now, and they look at me like, what? Grandma, just Google it. So if you Google it, if you look it up, what does it mean? It means to work, to toil, which is a tough word, to toil, to do things that are difficult. And we look at that word labor, and we have to realize that, well, we don't have to realize, but I realized when I really thought about it, was that most of our lives, even now in 2025, for many of us, work is still an option. Work is still going on in some way, shape, or form. And many of us are working and work around our day with the hours of our work. We labor still, some 5 days a week, some 6 days a week, some 4 days a week. We work around our vacation time based on what our work schedule is. And we live our life based on what we're earning from that job. So even though a lot has changed in the last 145 years or 50 years, there's still things that in work we are doing that are still difficult. People don't always work in a job that they love. They work because they have to live. So when we hear labor used in different ways, like labor of love, let's hope that some people are working in something they absolutely love, that they are doing exactly what they want to do. And their work and what they're putting out is they're getting back the same or more for themselves. Labor, again, when we talk about pregnancy, right? Women go into labor. They go into the work of birthing a child, a human being. That's difficult, not so easy, but it's labor, the same word. And we labor also, some of us, to birth companies, to birth other types of families, to birth an idea. Anytime we talk about labor, it involves work. It involves something that we have to do. And I wonder if when we talk about all of this work that we do on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month, year basis, How many of us put that same amount of work into ourselves? I don't mean going to the gym. I don't mean gaining weight, losing weight. I don't mean getting a different haircut. I don't mean buying different clothes for school or for the fall or whatever the case is. What I'm talking about is our infinite soul. How much work do we put in to trying to understand our soul's purpose? How much time, energy, and labor do we spend looking at what that is? Do we? Don't we? Do we do it some days like a holiday? Okay, this is a holiday. I'm going to look at what my soul is. Where am I in my soul? Am I doing what my soul is desiring? Or am I just focused on what my day-to-day physical tasks are? Now, I know a lot of you people will meditate. A lot of people sit and listen to music. A lot of people will go into nature, will go into walks, will do all those things to find some peace for our physical bodies or our mental state. But we have to also remember that we are all here with a physical body having an experience that comes from our soul, not the other way around. So our experiences, our work, our lessons here, do they affect the soul? I would have to say yes. Do we come here to learn certain things for our soul? Is our soul saying, I need to understand this, this, and this? And so our physical experience allows that lesson or lessons to be learned. I would say there's a good probability of that. Is our lot in this life to just go to work for 40 hours a week and come home and be so exhausted that we sit on the couch for the rest of the weekend, or we come here, or we go there? Or is some of it really digging in and understanding that we all don't look the same? We all don't act the same. We all don't grow the same. We all don't have the same experiences. And that somebody who looks different than us, or deals different than us, or works different than us, still has a soul. And that soul is just as important as mine or yours. Because somebody doesn't live in the same way that we do, doesn't make them wrong. It makes them a different soul. And I think a lot of times we get tripped up when we think that somebody should be at a certain spot in life because that's what we were taught or we were shown or we were told to do, and somebody else isn't. And we put a judgment on that person. And when we do that, are we actually putting a judgment on that person, or are we actually doing something against our soul, our own soul's growth, our own soul's understanding, our own soul's work? When we walk by somebody who's homeless, who's on the street, I will be honest with that. My first reaction is, what did they do? My first reaction. It's terrible. It's like, oh, what did they do to get here? Not that perhaps something was taken from them, or perhaps something changed for them. Most of us, when we look at where we are, most of us are generally 6 months away from where that person is. Somebody comes and takes your home, somebody forecloses, somebody's sick, somebody has a big medical bill. And what happens? Very easily, one of us could be that person on that street. So I have to check my judgment a lot of times of, oh, I would never do that. No, not so. Not so. So somebody who is different economically, different physically, different with perhaps emotional challenges, different with a different IQ number. That's all made up stuff. It's all stuff that's put in place for our physical bodies to function in. Has nothing to do with our soul. We could have a little child like those children in that song before, a little child whose soul is so strong and so bright and so growing, but we don't see that. We maybe see somebody else, somebody who's in difficulty, somebody who isn't perhaps growing as humans say we're supposed to grow. That soul still has a purpose. That soul is still here for a reason of learning of lessons that we may not be able to comprehend or understand, and that's okay, because we don't have to. All we have to do is love. All we have to do in our labor of life is love other people. And in that love, we accept who they are in their soul, doing whatever they're doing in that moment of time for their soul to grow. And you can look at sometimes in this world and say, oh, I'm not seeing it. Let's look harder. Let's try to understand that people are here for a reason. Souls are here for a reason. We've come to this experience for a reason. And you could say, why did I pick this experience? Well, maybe you didn't. Maybe you didn't. Maybe your soul did. Because maybe there are lessons that your soul is ready for. Allows you to grow, allows you to be different, allows you to move forward in truly who you are, not just how you look. I remember meeting when I was way back in high school. I used to work at this volunteer at this one facility nearby my town that had opened. So we're talking back in the 70s, mid 70s, early 70s, where there were a lot of babies who came because they had is it hydrophonia? Is it where there's water that's
Hydrocephalus.
Thank you. I knew the nurse would have that. Thank you, Helena. Hydrocephalus. Okay, thank you. Where these babies were in cribs, and people would come and stay with them for a while and pick them up and hold them and give human contact. And I think back to that, and as difficult as that was for me personally, because it was hard for me personally, as I got older and perhaps understood a little bit more, each one of those had a soul. Each one of those had a purpose for coming into that life, into that world, into that experience. I couldn't understand it, but guess what? I don't have to. I don't have to. All my job was in that moment was to give love. That's all. Your experience is your experience. Nobody else has to understand it. Nobody else has to approve it. How about that for a new concept? Mm-hmm. Nobody has to approve it. The thing you have to do is be in sync with your energy enough to understand what feels right for your soul's growth and what doesn't. And what feels right, go after. Don't let anybody say you can't do it. If it doesn't feel right, try to find something else. Let's put the labor into our soul experience as much as we put into our human experience. and see what perhaps could change, could shift, could be. If you feel totally in sync with your soul's purpose, your soul's being, great, great. Maybe you can get other people together to understand how you did it, because that would be great. But if you don't, our energy, our inner sense tells us things that a lot of times we don't listen to. Remember when something comes up that's, oh my God, it's such a big deal, but there's something in you that's like, it's going to be okay. But what do? We hold on to the human part of, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. And we forget about the soul's whispering of, it's going to be okay. Gonna be okay. And a lot of times people will say, well, I don't know what my soul needs or wants. Maybe we need to listen a little bit differently than our human ears. Maybe we need to listen to what is being whispered to us. That little bit of feeling of, oh, this feels right, or oh, this doesn't feel right. And pay more attention to that than somebody telling you, you need to do this or you need to do that. Labor Day is a holiday. It's something that through history has put better things in place for working people. We need more now. We need more. We need to do the work on ourselves, or at least be open to doing the work on ourselves, listening for the work, listening for the things, listening and being open to perhaps things that are not so easy. And then another Labor Day, you might look at that as your holiday, not just of the historical part of the holiday, but your holiday of when you started to listen to your soul, to understand or to try to understand the lessons, to try to make alterations, maybe changes, maybe not, and allowing it to be your growth, your being in your truth, in your truth. You all have souls. We all say we have souls, right? Why are they there? Why are we here in this human experience? As difficult as it is on many, many days. Let's look for an alternate reason. Let's look for a way that our soul can support this human experience and this human experience can support our soul. So as we walk through the days of labor, we can understand the lesson in it, rather than just look at it as, oh my, another thing, just another thing. So happy Labor Day, happy Labor Day weekend. I wish you, whatever you do today and tomorrow on the holiday, a great day. I would ask you to think about tomorrow all those people that came before us, all those people that stood up and said something's wrong. Let's fix it. And also for you to stand up where you need to for yourself and say, this is what I'm going to work on. This is what I'm going to labor for myself.